Hello, mate.
How you doing, Alan? Welcome all to a chat with the Governor, Mr. Alan Hudson. Jack Grealish, lockdown's finished. Well, pretty much is finished. Football season's restarting again. Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, the first game that we're going to be watching, 6 o'clock on Wednesday on our Sky channels. Sheffield United, I'll always remember the greatest player that ever played for Sheffield, Tony Curry. I'll always remember you guys with Stan and yourself and Frank. And Jack Grealish is one of those players, one of the few modern day players that we could call a maverick and put him in the same category as you guys that entertained us so well in the 70s.
When I come back from Seattle in the 80s, I remember Chelsea had a good player called Mickey Fillery. He could have been anything, and another kid who died not so long ago. You and I had done a thing about him, Dale Jasper. Yeah. They were two outstanding talents, and I'm sure other clubs had them come through, but abused them or ignored them, and they ignored these two. But Jack's kind of taken that onto another level. It's as if somebody's come off Mars and dropped him off, and forgot to take him back with them. There ain't a player like him around, and in the modern game, the people are talking about football coming back. Well, I'm not one of those excitable people, because it's who you want to watch, and after a month of watching football, they'll be going, "God, what was all the fuss about?" That was a crap game, and there was nothing. But I'm looking forward to Wednesday's game more than I've looked forward to a game for ages, because this is going to be Jack's greatest test, and he's had quite a few. He could have been out of the game by now, the way he's conducted himself through time. But that's not just his fault. That's a lot to do with that. He's been mismanaged.
Do you see an awful lot of Jack Grealish in UL? Because again, we've recently done our My Life, My Music Part 10. We were looking at Seabiscuit and a player that was broken and then fixed, which was pretty much you when at Chelsea you fell out of love with the game, you fell out of love with everything. Then Tony Waddington got you. Dean Smith has done wonderful things with Jack Grealish, and Aston Villa's fortune really, the promotion wheels on that wagon started rolling when Jack come back from injury, and I think he scored that wonderful goal at Villa Park against, as it was in them days, Frank Lampard's Derby County, and then went to Wembley, got promoted. And I've been down Villa Park a number of times this season purely just to watch Jack, and I've seen Villa a lot on the TV. In my opinion, had it not been for Jack, Villa would already be relegated. He's that important, and I think you're right. This is, it's not Jack's last stand, but it's probably Jack's most important stand, isn't it, with the Premier League coming back now?
Well, we had a chat prior to this, and I think this is where managers are so very, very important. There will be managers in my day, and they're still around, where they would be actually juggling whether to play Jack or not.
Yes.
Because this is a period where these are must-win games, and then there'll be managers that'll be looking at it as must-not-lose games.
Yep.
Like the Brighton situation, they look like they're favourites to get out of it in my eyes, because they're the best team defensively. Yeah. But Villa ain't. So Villa have got to say, look, who's going to? You got to try and find someone who's going to be your match winner.
Yep.
And they're going to be tight games. There's going to be no crowds. Will that affect Jack? There's going to be a question. If he comes through we done a thing, me and Don Shanks. He asked me how would it affect me. I wouldn't like to play in the games. I hate playing in front of no crowds. I said, way back in the 70s, I'd experienced playing at Wembley with 100,000 people. I've experienced playing it in America, in New York Giants Stadium, in front of vast crowds, and it lifts you to another height. And then I've played at Oxford on a Wednesday night for Chelsea reserves, with about 25 people, and I tell you what, it's just deflating.
Yeah.
And it's this is a massive test with nobody in the ground, and for someone with his ability, the managers must stress to all his players, you fight for your life, and as soon as you get the ball, give it to Jack. That is a key. He is a key to the future of Aston Villa. It's as simple as that.
Now, there's been many paper cuttings, press releases, etc., linking Jack with a number of clubs, Manchester United being the club most linked with. Now, there's an argument that, Aston Villa are a massive club. The West Midlands as a region has really underpunched in terms of a football sense. Now, there's no reason really, in truth, why Jack can't stay at Villa as long as they've got some money to build the team around him. Because for me, Jack is the one player, in my opinion, who I'd build the England team round. I'd build any team round because I just love the way he plays. He plays certainly in a similar style to you, Al. He takes players on, he'll pass, you give and go, he'll want the ball round. He's always looking to find little pockets and, as you rightly say, change and win games.
Well, he's the type of player that they didn't want, that they used to make extinct. They didn't want their players. They've knocked. When I was a kid, my father used to take me to see inside forwards. Inside forwards were the most important part of any football team. Make no mistake. All right, goal scorers are priceless, but as the game goes in football terms, the inside forwards, then they did away with, like Ramsey did away with wingers. Football teams did away with inside forwards to go another way, 4-3-3 and this kind of thing. But Jack is a throwback to the old inside forward. There is no better sight than watching a player like Jack. He wouldn't have got a game in our day, I'm afraid. Waddington would have loved him. Waddington would have made sure that he bought him. I can't see when you just mentioned Manchester United were interested, where they obviously weren't, because they spent so much money on nondescript players, as I call them. People that are interested in players don't talk about it, they buy them. That's paper talk is rubbish. And I said yesterday, I can't believe Frank Lampard ain't bought him at Chelsea. That if there's one part of the field that Frank needs, it's Jack Grealish. He wouldn't be. I don't think football supporters on the whole. I've been arguing with my mate for quite a while. I said he's too good for Manchester United. He's a Manchester United supporter. I said he's too good for them, mate. I said, do you imagine him playing in Old Trafford with all them open spaces, giving him the ball? He'd torment people. And he went, oh, no, he ain't strong enough. This is because of, the football supporter is so negative, and they've been watching averageness for so long. That they got used to it, and they got used to robots, and they talk about good players. And I have to say, well, excuse me, it's not about, this game is not about good. If I'm going to put music on, I'll put the best on. I don't put good on. It's like putting Des O'Connor on. When you're sitting there in the morning, you're doing some right. Des O'Connor don't inspire you. You need, I've been to the Albert Hall, and I've been to Royal Festival Hall to see Frank Sinatra, mate, and it's an experience. Greatness comes along every now and then, and the problem in this country is that we don't recognise it. We employ people that aren't really good enough to have the job. England managers, as I say, we've had the Wally with a brolly, we've had the Turnip, we've had the Swede, we've had them all in there, and they've all living in big houses and got big cars, and they all sit round it having dinner parties saying that they were managers of England, but they don't say how they did while they were managers. And I always judge myself as if my granddaughter said to me, oh yeah, you play with, because kids are great, aren't they? They're so honest. They'd say, oh, you play for England. How did you get on? You know, Peter Shilton, 125 caps. If his grandchildren said, "What did you win, Peter, in them 20 years?" Well, I didn't win nothing, but, you know, because Diego Maradona cheated. You know, this is bollocks. You know, we do paper over all the crap, you know, and that is why, you know, in the history of the game, when you have to go back to Paul Gascoigne as being a player, what happened in between?
Yeah.
It's frightening. With all the money in this game and in the entire world, what's happened to the inside forward, the great, and this fella's come along and they're questioning him.
It's almost as like with Jack, what you did, and the best bit of advice that your father gave you is don't listen to the coaches because they don't know what they're going on about. Go and do your own thing, because players like you, players like Jack, players like Tony Curry and Stan Bowles and Frank Worthington and all the great players of the past, they were all, one thing in common, they were all uncoachable, and they all got fans on the edges of the seat, although in our days it was terraces. But when you had the ball, there was the anticipation of excitement and something special is going to happen. And that's just the feeling I get whenever I watch Jack Grealish play. Anything can happen when the ball's at Jack's feet, especially if he's, and for me, is a player that's got no fixed position on a pitch. I just say to people, get the ball to Jack, let Jack receive the ball wherever he is, and just attack the defence and make things happen, Jack.
Well, it's I always go back to the argument with Dave Sexton. He said to me one day, "Why do you keep passing the ball to Peter Osgood?" And I said, "Well, I was under the impression, and I was only 18, 19. This is after my father told Sexton not to coach me. Yeah. He said he don't need telling. He already knows how to play the game. The game's a simple game." I just said to Dave Sexton, well, you know, the game's all about giving the ball to your best player. If your best player has the ball most of the time, you've got more chance of winning.
Yep.
If your worst players have got the ball, then you've got no chance of winning.
Yeah.
The people that can't create nothing. I mean, I watched Chelsea play last season, and at half time, someone invited me as a guest down into the ground. We had lunch, and at half time, and this fella said, "What do you think of the first half?" I said, "Well, in 45 minutes, I think they played Bournemouth and lost at home 1-0.
Yeah.
And I said, your back four have had more of the ball than your midfield players. Yeah. I said, how can that be right? If you expect to win a football match, the last people you want to have the ball most of the game is your back four players.
Yeah.
Them back, they're there to stop the other team scoring. They're not there to be good players. You know, at Stoke City, our back four had to kick their own granny to stop the ball going in our net, and then because when we attacked them, that's what they did to us.
Yeah.
You know, this was a war of two minds. You know, and managers, the coaches, they don't understand that you have to get the ball into your best player.
Yeah.
It's like a game of chess. It's like it's just something that is so natural that, you know, you look for a music collection. Well, you look for the best singer.
Yeah.
So you don't put average, and this is what's happened. You know, the thing on telly the other year with Graham Taylor with Carlton Palmer, and you're thinking he's making he wonder why he got the sack, and he wonder why he's called a turnip, because he's picking people like Carlton Palmer.
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect to young Carlton Palmer. He's a Frank Worthington. He's a lovely lad. Well, yeah. Lovely lad don't win matches.
Yeah. Matt Letizia would have won matches, but strangely enough, Graham didn't pick him. But he did pick
well, we wouldn't have got beat on penalties, would we? Yeah.
Now, I've always said this, and nothing will dissuade me from my opinion of former great players working with the upcoming new kids on the block, if you like, and educating them in a football sense. And you know, with somebody like Jack, I can't think of a better person on a one-to-one to talk to Jack, to work with Jack, to educate Jack, to take Jack to that next level than you, because you are like, I put the two pictures of you and Jack on the Facebook page the other day, two peas in the same pod, so alike.
Well, I think we got the right, we probably, I don't know, we like the same music or we like the same food, but we've got exactly the same mindset on football, and that's to go out, enjoy the game, and try and make something happen.
Yeah.
You know, people, as I remember Jock Stein saying it, and my governor used to say it, people work hard all week, you know, and they want to be entertained, you know.
His recent goal, Al, I don't know if you've seen it, against the Albion. Okay, it was a friendly game, but I remember George scoring a fantastic goal for San Jose, and people were dismissing it because it was only in the NASL against these other players that weren't top Premier League or First Division players in those days. And some people are saying that about Jack scoring that wonder goal at Villa Park the other day. Now, for me, there's only one player on that football pitch that could have scored that goal, and that's Jack. Again, he comes in, finds that space on the left, comes in onto his right, checks back out, and then just dinks it over the goalkeeper. That, in my opinion, is pure class, and that's what I watch football for.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why people pay a lot of money to watch football. But today that don't happen, you see, because they don't. The football supporter now don't go to watch. That it's not an entertainment anymore. Football, it's something. What are they going to do? I always say when I go to Stoke, when they love their football in Stoke, and they're good judges because they've been brought up on it. Yeah. What else is there to do, you know?
Yeah.
And it's become like that in life, you know. Everything is so don't get beat, you know. Football supporters today don't. I mean, young kids growing up today. I was in Stoke a couple of years ago, and I asked someone in a pub on the way to the ground. Strangely enough, they were playing Chelsea, and I said, "Who do you go to watch it at Stoke then?" And he went, "I'll go down to see Stoke play." I said, "Yes, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you who you watch." I said, "You got a favourite player?" He said, "No, I just watch Stoke." I said, "Well, you must go and watch somebody." I said, "You know, in 1970s, people used to come and either watch me play or they watch Jimmy Greenoff. They've got a favourite player, you know. What's the point of going to watch nobody?"
Yeah.
And this is the way football has become. There is nobody. You wouldn't, as you just said, and as I keep saying, you know, I'm looking forward to Wednesday night, and I wouldn't be watching Aston Villa and Sheffield United Wednesday night if it weren't for Jack Grealish. And that is, I promise, I'll be doing something else, because there's not another player on the field that can do what Jack does. It's simple as that. It's not rocket science. It's sheer, come on, Jack. You know, it's a great test for him, which I love. I do love a challenge. I've had enough of them in my life, and young Jack's had enough of them in his life so far. But this is a fantastic opportunity to stuff it down their throats. And I'm hoping the manager has told him that, you know.
Yeah, and also stuff it down Gareth Southgate's throat, because, you know, he's had chances to pick Jack in the past. Strangely enough, again, very similar to you, where Ramsey banned you for 3 years. Revie wouldn't pick you, and it was only Tony Waddington that went out in the press and says, "Look, Alan Hudson will play for a World 11 before he plays for England." And in a way, Revie was still didn't want to pick you, but because the press felt that he had to, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it was a case of them picking you to foul.
Yeah,
it wasn't. They still, even when I went there, they still had no belief in what you were doing. You know, it was Don Revie didn't believe. He didn't show in the dressing room that he even wanted to beat West Germany. I'm sure he wanted West Germany to win, so he could leave me out.
Yeah.
The next game, and said, well, you all clap your hands and you all shouted and you all bang the drum for this fella. I've picked him, and he's let the country down. He would have slaughtered me.
Yeah.
Now that would have been great, but it didn't happen. And after the game, he ignored me and he had the ump with me, and because I not only beat Germany, but I beat Don Revie. So he took that very personal.
And Jack being the same age as you, 24, when, arguably for me, he should have already been capped, but, it may
Well,
be
that's
24
yeah,
when he
that's
gets his first cap.
you can't get capped when you're banned for 3 years, can you? Which
No.
is another thing with the England manager. But this is the perfect time. This is a perfect time. He may be better off now getting an introduction rather than when he was 18, 19 because
Yeah.
he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
He's gone through all the bad times. I think this fella now has found the perfect role for him.
Yeah.
He's given him a free hand. Go and do what you want. He's got the perfect manager at the moment, from what I see and the way he plays. You just see the way he walks out on the field that he's ready.
Oh, absolutely. I've been there, and it's like Jack's leading his team out. He's the captain. He's absolutely. I mean, you can tell that he absolutely loves being captain of Aston Villa, the club
Of
that he's
course.
always supported, and that's something that you've always said that Dave Sexton should have made you captain of Chelsea, and I agree because it gives you that extra little bit of responsibility. And certainly what I've seen with Jack, I think Jack's absolutely thrived on that added responsibility for Aston Villa.
Without a doubt. He's looked a different player since he's been captain. People love it. It's like, in a different kind of way. Taking the captaincy off Brian Robson, he wouldn't be the same player.
Yeah.
Some people put that armband on them, and they're great leaders. And Jack leads in a completely different way of people like Brian Robson. Brian Robson get 110% out of you, but Jack will lead you in a way that, like when I made my England debut, I remember saying to our fullbacks, it was their debuts. I said, look, don't put yourself under any pressure. As soon as you get it, give it to me. I said, me and Alan Ball will take care of it. Don't worry. And that's what Jack has got to say to defenders. Don't whack it. I watched a game on telly yesterday, a semi-final against Watford, Chelsea, when we won 5-1. Yeah. And we were useless.
Yeah.
We were hopeless. Our defence, they needed sacking. They were just whacking the ball and whacking the ball. But I was only a young kid. I was only 18.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened at Stoke when I was 24.
Yep.
So he's at a stage in his career now, in his life, where he's had all that. He's had them bypass him. He's had people where they should have passed to him haven't passed to him, but he needs as much as that ball as possible. And the more he gets the ball on Wednesday night, the more chance of Aston Villa got of staying in the Premier League.
And they've also got John McGinn back from injury, and makes a huge difference to that Villa midfield, doesn't he? And between him and Jack, would you play Jack slightly more central, Al, if you were managing him and more in that midfield role, or push him up? If you was looking after Jack, what would you say, and how would you play Jack Grealish?
I would say to Jack Grealish, whatever you do, don't get too deep.
Yeah.
Don't come too deep. Always go. I'd have someone in midfield like at Stoke with. We had a fella called John Mahoney, would run through brick walls for you, and he was a good little player, Josh. He was underrated, but I knew wherever I went I could go there, because if it broke down or whatever, but although that was never on my mind, Josh would sort things out.
Yeah.
So he needs to say to Jack, and I'm sure he has, whenever don't get in. Don't get too deep and out of play, because if they get in the other team's half and he's in his own half, that's no good.
Yeah, absolutely. You
want him as close to the danger areas as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about him these days as well. I've seen him make ground quickly, get up from defensive positions, get forward, but he shouldn't be having to do that. He got, it's like when Matt Letizia was at Southampton.
Yeah.
He never come back in his own half.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, Alan Ball changed my life. And Alan Ball said he kept us up. Because he said, look, you stay up there. You stay where you're dangerous. It's like you play it's like square holes and round pegs. You keep him up there. You keep him in there, just around. When Glenn Hoddle went to France, I think it was, and I think he might have played under Wenger there, Monaco or something, and he changed his life. He said, look, you're getting too deep. don't come too deep. We need you to create. You know, if I want someone to go deep, I'll go and get someone off the street to do that.
Yep.
You know, you got a little bit of magic here. Use that magic. So that's gonna be the key on Wednesday night, of getting him in them positions. I think the managers should be on this telephone with us two, talking about. He'll be saying exactly the same thing.
Jack Grealish, the modern day maverick with magic in his boots.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, when I played, I was very critical of myself. I know when I'm good, and I know when I'm bad, and I know whatever, and I'm very critical of other people. I think Jack's come on bundles. I have questions about him when I first see him, although I knew he was an incredible talent. But I also knew that everybody needs. What does Jeff Powell say in one of my books? He says everybody needs their Svengali. It's as simple as that. You know, Gazza had it with Venables, and he mentioned several players. I had it with Waddington. Maradona had it with Mendotti or whoever it was. And you know, these players, they need great management if they're going to get the best out of them. And I think he's found his manager, and I like the manager. Full stop. He's honest, and he's turned Jack around.
Well, if I was Dean Smith or John Terry, I would be making a phone call to Mr. Alan Hudson and making Alan Hudson Jack Grealish's Svengali, because I think that you and Jack working together would be a match made in heaven, like you and Tony were.
I think he should make me his agent about anything else, because I could do with the money.
I think Stella would have something to say about that, and I'm not on about the beer. Always good fun, always forthright opinions. In a nutshell, Aston Villa, a number of cup finals. Jack's the captain, Jack's the inspiration. It is all about Jack. Will Jack pull it off? Him coming back from injury got Villa into the Premier League. Will Jack Grealish and his pals keep Villa in the Premier League?
Well, that's $1 million question. I do know one thing. We'll be watching it. Football's a crazy game. We don't know the result. We never know the outcome of the result. But we do know one thing: with Jack Grealish out there, they got more chance of surviving than without him. And that's all you can say is about a player.
Absolutely. Uddy, till next time, all the best and love to you, pal.
All right, mate.
Take care. Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Bye, mate. Bye, mate.